Hi, welcome to this podcast, which is Talking Ed. My name is Dave Benson. I'm the Executive Director of Associated Christian Schools, ACS. And this podcast, slightly different to our Keeping Faith podcast, which is more on organizational leadership. Talking Ed really is for the everyday teacher. And it's looking at how do we teach in a distinctively Christ-centered way? How do we do Christ-centered education for the common good? And today I'm in conversation with Stacey Box. It's lovely to see you, Stacey.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
Very good, very good. Now, Stacey is Director of Teaching and Learning and also a HPE teacher up here at Bundaberg Christian College, BCC. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the school here, and what is this nebulous Director of Teaching and Learning role? How did you find yourself in that?
Yeah, great question. I am a sold-out HPE teacher.
Yes, thank you very much. As am I,
yeah.
so keen. Yeah.
It's something that I felt God called me to many years ago, and I've been lucky enough to pursue it for a long time. Unfortunately, with PE teaching, age has a limiter on your ability.
It's the sun.
It's the sun.
It's not just your physical ability to be able to still spot. What was your main sport?
I grew up playing basketball and soccer.
Basketball, soccer, no.
Okay.
So you've got eye-foot coordination.
I should have clarified. I'm more one of those like jack of all trades, not great at any, but anyway.
That's impressive. My feet don't work when I play sport, but anyway.
No, I gave it a good crack. No, the Director of Teaching and Learning roles come up again out of just God providing an opportunity for me. One that I don't necessarily think that I was very well prepared for, but I'm just trusting that God has that plan for me to go along. My job to be discerning and identifying how to encourage our teachers, how to be excellent teachers in their practice. So I'm looking forward to really getting my teeth into that, probably more in 2027 within our context. But yeah, I've been at Bundy for about 2 years now, 2.5 years. I really enjoyed the tree change from the Sunshine Coast. Missed the beaches though.
So you said you're at Nambour.
Yeah, Nambour Christian College before this. Hi everyone down there.
Yeah, we've already done some videos there. I mentioned Chris Spencer with a mullet, which he hates me referring to. Not Chris has a mullet, but Chris said, Nambour is the mullet of the... Well, you can. It's on the ACS Together.
I can't wait. I'm there just for that. Came to Bundy, engaged in a Christian school, which is here. And it's really beautiful. It's the first school that my kids have been a part of as well. And it's given me, being a parent at a Christian school has just given me such a wonderful understanding of the fundamentals that impact our kids, not just hearing it from home or church, but also every day at school. It's so good to have that Christian worldview being impressed upon them. So as a parent, I love this place.
That's awesome. How old are your kids, and do you have to teach any of them?
Thankfully, no. And
are they coming here? Or?
They are. They are 6, 7.
Yeah. You just did 6, 7. No. I saw
they
that.
are.
Yeah. Okay.
They told me that. They came up with that. Mum, I'm 6. I'm 7. So that's a vibe. In the thick of it, but they've just got the most amazing teachers down there. So
fantastic.
You need to interview them.
Well, I'll get in there. Stacey's very humble. She's like, yeah, excellent teacher. What? No, I'm pretty sure we're in the right place.
You're kind.
Well, let's start off with just a broad question, which is not specific even to your subject necessarily, but where do you see God at work in BCC at the moment? Where you're kind of like, isn't that awesome the way God's doing stuff? What do you notice?
Yeah. One thing that I really noticed when coming here was actually how Christian this school was. And
you mean that in a good way, not a bad way?
Totally good way.
Okay, because sometimes that's meant like it's fundamentalist and what are we doing?
No, not like that at all. This has got nothing to do with the context I was in before, but just I think it's the size of the school that gives it, in a sense, again, not all bad ways or good ways, you're in each other's business. So you see the kids more often. You understand their walk. It's a smaller town, so you're often going to church with a whole bunch of these families. So you have more of a connection, which is a huge responsibility as a teacher in that context as well. You need to make sure that you're not just walking out of here at whatever time you leave. You're still a mentor or a potential role model in that
know your life
as well. On the sunny coast, you could hide a little bit more unintentionally, but I've found that just because of that community, that relational element has really given rise to it feeling like a super Christian place. So I don't know if it's real or not. It might just be my perspective, but it starts with the teachers for sure. It starts with the leadership, but the conversations, the number of times that we have teachers coming and giving a good news report about a student that's decided to give their life to the Lord in their pastoral care class is crazy. It's mind-blowing.
I've been hearing a lot of stories too about, I know with your chapel, Brennan was mentioning Full Stop. Feel like I need to hit the ground now with my foot after the Full Stop. But it sounds like with the student-led kind of stuff that you're really seeing a vibrant faith of these young people, and they're not ashamed to be able to share that and live that in the culture.
Yeah, it's a safe space. And I guess that probably leads into one of the questions that I know was coming up. Sorry to steal your thunder.
You're about to take over the interview. You are a PE teacher.
You know it.
All right, go on. Where are you going to
go? That idea of students feeling comfortable and safe to be countercultural for me is such a privilege to see lived out. When I wanted or desired, or God placed the desire in my heart to become a teacher, sorry, I shouldn't bump that. He told me that I was obviously sporty. I'd grown up playing sport, and I could use that through being a countercultural role model to others and showing them that you don't have to follow the ways of the world in the way that you conduct yourself. There's an alternate way to live, and that's through that redemption with Christ. So for me, PE teaching was just the perfect vehicle for that. And we get to see it, particularly with our senior leaders and what they're imparting on the students in the lower grades. I get to partner with my students to show them that there's role models out there that live a great life, a fun life, a fulfilling life that doesn't require the challenges of our culture. So that for me is just the best. I love it.
I think at the moment, actually, it's probably easier to do that in some ways because there's a bunch of really prominent Christians who are living their faith well in the sporting space. I think of like Nicola Oleschlager's, I don't know if I'm saying her surname right, but in the high jump, there's a number of the footy players. And especially after FIFA with the World Cup. Or if you're looking at the athletics, I was just looking this morning with the Commonwealth Games. I don't want to be nationalistic. I'm really not. We got like 70 goals. England came second with 29. Okay, that's a skite. I shouldn't. But there are some stunning athletes, and you see the way that many of them are not simply going, look at me, I'm the best, but actually building community and helping each other up, and even encouraging the other ones from other countries, poor England or Scotland or Canada. Everyone's nice at Jamaica, but showing that genuine sportsmanship and love. It's a cool time.
It's amazing. As a PE teacher, you would know as well, we live on this kind of space of we want to encourage our students to do the best that they can, but we also want to pursue excellence. I think most athletes or people that have grown up being somewhat athletic, there's a point where they either pursue it and it becomes a part of, I don't know, who they are, their discipline, their daily. And do they pursue that? Do they pursue other things? The people like those athletes that you mentioned, they're doing that, but they're not leaving it as, this is going to be controversial, but as an idol. It's not their identity.
It's easily idolatry of sport.
Their
self to achieve it through sport.
Their identity. They're holding it so beautifully, giving all that glory to God, and using that platform as an opportunity for them to speak and boast about God, which is so cool. It's amazing.
No, I feel like we've got a nice window here to go into PE teaching. So what we're going to do, I know you've seen this in advance, and for those who have watched any of these podcasts, you know where this is going, which is we're going to talk at 3 levels. And this comes from a good friend of mine, Trevor Cooling, his wife, Margaret, David I. Smith, Beth Green, a number of people with What If Learning. It's a really, really helpful way to bring your teaching area into a Christian approach. And so they talk at a kind of a curricular level, a pedagogical level, and a practices level. So the first one is in What If Learning is, where do you see anew the curricular connections between HPE and between your faith? Now, we'll break that into 3 sections. And the first one is, where do you see the good of creation? So as you're teaching PE and you're looking at the curriculum, and I know you've mentioned like alignment with the Australian curriculum, knowing the details, making sure we honour that, but we do so in a distinctively Christian way. where do you see the good of creation in HPE?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's one that I actually don't find that hard to answer because I think if you look at the rationale of the HPE curriculum, it's deep within. It's all about relationship. It's all about connecting with others, which for me is a privilege to teach. It's a privilege to give our students in a Christian context the opportunity to connect with those things in a way that reflects Christ and what he's already done for us. So for me, that creation of essentially Imago Dei, where we were created in God's image, I have the opportunity to demonstrate to kids there's a different way, not a fallen way, not this way that you've grown up knowing, but there's this other way, this way that you were originally intended to be created. That's in Christ's image or God's image. And I get to share whatever vehicle, whatever story in there to try and get that redemption to happen. Doesn't always work. It's not always successful. Sometimes it's pretty messy, but I still get the opportunity to share that. And it's so easily embedded in our curriculum.
So if I want to be a little bit provocative then, but isn't Christianity about all that spiritual stuff and you're talking about all this body stuff? Isn't the faith about, the relationships, but you're talking about how to play sport? Sorry, that sounds very profane, very secular to me. How does this whole faith thing relate to making sporting activities and playing well or competition? Isn't competition the opposite of what Christ calls us to?
Yeah, and I guess that's, if you go down the sporting avenue, definitely, but in every school at the moment, it's mandated that we teach from this health and physical education point of view. So we're not just pursuing excellence, there's an opportunity for it there, but we're talking about how to take these contextualized elements about relationships and put them into that context. So the way that I love to do it.
And you can get as detailed as you want, give some specific examples or anything like.
Yeah, awesome. We have just undertaken a unit here that was actually a relational unit. So we were talking about communication and fair play and some other elements around well-being and diversity, all that sort of all of those kinds of elements. And it was very much a classroom lesson for a start, but we would straight away go out into a practical context, different every time. So generally a team sport because you get to test all of those things out straight away. So we've gone in the classroom, we're doing the head knowledge, the kids know all the right answers. We put a video on, we record them playing, and you know exactly what happens. There's the communication's gone, there's kids cheating, there's unethical play everywhere, there's exclusion, there's all of the things. So we've got an opportunity then.
So would you then play back and go, told you so?
Exactly. No. No, obviously they were able to have a look and start to identify some areas where they perhaps didn't act with those values that they had already agreed were the right way to go. And then we got to do it again, which was nice. And
that's interesting.
Some restoration there, which is good.
Yeah.
But that integrated idea of health and physical education is I'm sold out. It's the best. You're creating holistically the student. You're not just physically creating them. You're not just pursuing them towards excellent strategic play or execution of skills. You are developing them spiritually, firstly and foremost, through making that connection between those relational aspects and actually putting them into practice and treating each other with respect as you should. Biblically, but also, those relational, those social elements as well, which, we're a big fan of.
Yeah, we did, I mentioned to you, we did a conversation with Dr. Deb Ailing from down at Christian Heritage College, who teaches in this area, did a PhD in health education. We're talking about how actually notions of health and salvation, biblically understood, are very, very similar. Like sozo in the Bible for for salvation actually includes rightness of body, of mind, of spirit, everything as one integrated being. So health concepts and salvation concepts are foundationally relational. And also the notion of shalom is flourishing through relationship with God, neighbor, nature, self, the webbing together in duty and delight of all things. So that's close. But what about the sport part? And what about competition? a sport and competition the fall that we're about to talk about, or are they part of the goodness of Imago Dei and creation as well? How do you see the sport part? Because that's a key part of what you do.
It's so key, and it's got such a wonderful vehicle to, again, be treated spiritually. There's no reason why it can't be. We've got a Lions Sport Academy here at the school where we focus on basketball and volleyball, and that is so much around formation of these young people. They're excellent athletes because of their endeavours outside of school. They come to school, they join our team, and that has a new identity, something that is countercultural, something that's different. They start with devotion. All of those beautiful values that we hold dear are consistently put into practice in that context. So they're getting basketball training here that will look fundamentally different to how it looks just up the road at the local club, which is going to start to turn them into really great citizens, we hope.
So there's a new standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think, not pressing on it, but just adding to it a touch, I think too, like the center of the biblical story in Genesis 1 and 2, particularly 2, is culture making. Andy Crouch talks about this in his book on culture making, that God made us not simply to love others, but to do something with the fabric of the world.
Yeah.
And that includes making of music, that includes making of sport, making of culture. So actually in the coming up with these games and the ways of playing and the fairness and even the competition to become more excellent by striving, not striving to dominate, that's sinful, but striving to be our best and help our opponent be their best as well. These are actually expressions of the Imago Dei, of culture making. So that's at its best. That's where we see the good of creation. Where do you see the brokenness of the fall in both this field of HPE, but perhaps also what you call to teach? Where do you see the brokenness of the fall? Yeah, and sin.
For me, again, just being in the subject area I'm in, there is so much complexity around a child or a student understanding their identity in our culture. They've got so many influences. And for me, it is a constant wrestle, or I see a constant wrestle between what they know from what our school has taught them, from perhaps the influence of their friends or church, whatever Christian influence they have, where your identity is in Christ, and every other minute of the day where the influence is potentially selfish, it's potentially inward.
Which sport can easily be self-aggrandizing.
Absolutely.
And being curved to reflect upon oneself, which is a definition of sin.
Totally, yeah. So there's that big wrestle there for me, that and that idea as well. Like you see that the student often, or every now and then, who is an elite student, they've poured energy into these dreams that they're working towards, and they get injured. And that injury then gives them that identity. Who am I again? How do I be who I thought I was going to be?
I'm more than my sport. I'm more than my performance.
That's right.
And maybe exposes selfishness at points as well, because I heard one person say, to become an elite athlete, not saying you can't do it as a Christian, but it almost requires that you selfishly bend not only your life, but your family's life around your schedule, your training, your nutrition, that it very easily becomes self-aggrandizing of everyone is there to serve me and my agenda.
Yeah, totally.
Can be hard to do that as a Christian, which I guess is part of character formation too.
Yeah. Knowing that, I think at the end of the day, you hold all those things loosely as well. And that's the encouragement I have for these young athletes. Hold it loosely. It's just a building block in your story. It's a moment now that God's preparing you for something else. There's only such a small percentage of athletes that go on to be able to participate full time in whatever sport or pursuit that they have. Often it's got to be an avenue for others or other things. It's an apprenticeship, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all part of that, understanding who they're going to be, and God revealing himself to them in their journey.
Yeah. And I guess too, like you mentioned about taking the video of their lived theology, how they're actually acting versus what they say. Yeah. I guess a lot of what you do in sport and the relationships education as well is looking at the fallenness of the world. So for instance, if you're doing sports sociology, we talked in one of our sessions about the gentrification of suburbs that happens with the Olympics. I live in Spring Hill on the edge of Fortitude Valley. when they start building the stadium,
Yeah.
a 10-minute walk from us.
Yeah. Wow.
It's going to push people out of Fortitude Valley who maybe are down and out.
Yeah.
Then they're gone. And it's like the sports sociology addresses some of that and some of the abuse or racism as well. And so I guess there's ways of looking at or how to party safely.
Yeah.
Which I think you're teaching about today.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It was great. It was a vibe.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's year 10. So it's all, I think the curriculum, I'm going to nerd out here. It's propose and justify.
Okay.
Management situations for you or others in those kinds of contexts. We're using that as a vehicle because it's relevant to them. Probably a bit too old if I'm being real. Like they've all generally had exposure to it.
This is Bundaberg.
It is Bundaberg. But no, it's the idea of actually having how am I going to problem solve if something goes wrong and how can I look after my mate? So it's a vibe. They're very knowledgeable.
Yeah. So this is kind of addressing the fallenness of humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's then talk redemption. So we've talked the good of creation, the brokenness of the fall. Where do you see signs of redemption flowing through? What does love look like in this subject area and transformation?
Yeah. For me, again, I'm just going to keep saying relationship, but in all honesty, God sent Jesus to have relationship and restore us. And then he turned around and said, you got to love others as well. So I think my foundational philosophy of teaching has been founded on relationship. And I think that is the number one way to influence others in our educational context. I think every teacher has their own strengths and weaknesses, but for me, mine's very much founded on that relatability, making sure that kids feel known, feel loved, and they're safe in our context. And that probably drives a lot of my behavior management as well. My standard generally will be, does everyone feel safe? Does everyone feel heard? Does everyone feel okay to be free here? And if you don't, or if there's an issue or an error there, then I need to deal with that behavior and have some corrective measures there. But it's got to start a relationship. We know in church land that you can't you can't be a Christian unless you belong. You have to be relatable. You have to relate to. Then someone's going to listen to you, I think. So for me, that redemption comes through that relationship, whether it's with each other, whether it's promoting those Christian role models from within the student body, or whether that's me stepping into that space. It's got to start with relationship.
And that's partly how you're teaching, which we're going to get into pedagogy in a second. But do you see spots to connect those dots in the curriculum itself?
In the curriculum, for sure.
Like give us an example of a unit or something where you're like, yeah, that's a great lesson to be able to teach that content point from the Australian curriculum, version 9, whatever it is, in a way that actually shows that there is a bigger story at work here, that good is breaking through and redemption is coming, and here's what transformational love looks like in sport.
Not necessarily sport as such, but a large portion of the Australian curriculum is focused around, again, how you interact with others, that social health, that social responsibility. And fortunately, at the beginning, it talks about identity. Who am I? And we have such a brilliant platform in our context to say, well, you're not who the world says you are who God says you are. This is
I am loved.
This is who we think he's telling you are. This is why. And we can go quite deep there, which is pretty good. You're going to polarize kids no matter what. Kids that are on the edge, have heard it before and it means something new to them now, or kids that are just still in that I'm at this school because my parents have sent me, I don't really care. But it's still another seed planted for me, which is super important. And if we can get some action around that in our practical context, that for me is awesome. That's going to solidify that.
Do you feel any tensions teaching this area?
Yeah, absolutely.
As a Christian, is there stuff that the curriculum seems to go for that you're like, well, I can see the connection, but actually that is fundamentally working against a biblical worldview or against what we would want them to learn as kids potentially called to follow Jesus. Well, called to follow Jesus, but many aren't. But where's the tension?
Yeah, there's in some of the elaborations, there's definitely a leaning towards gender fluidity, which again, that's a contentious issue.
It is in sport too, as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of Olympic standards and who competes in what, and
absolutely. So to have again the opportunity just to speak truth into that. truth that will look different to a lot of different students, come from different contexts, but above anything, for them to know that they're known, they're loved, they're cared for, irrespective of where their journey's at the moment. That for me is the foundation. But to be out, there is that tension where you can see there is that other agenda creeping into the language around the standard elaborations in particular, that are pushing us in a certain direction. So,
and knowing how to cover that wisely.
Yeah.
So let's go to the second level. We've been talking at CNU, the curricular connections, the good of creation, brokenness of the fall, healing, action, redemption, breaking through. The next one is choose engagement. It's more to do with teaching and learning, the way that you structure a lesson, the way that you embed this. And again, it's one thing to be a great teacher, but we're not simply teaching in general. We're trying to form young people as, I would say, wise peacemakers.
Yeah.
People who are wise to know the way the world is and how to flourish. They're virtuous, they love the good, and they're skillful at making for peace, making for shalom. So can you give us maybe an example of whether of a class you've taught, or just how do you approach the teaching and learning to help form these wise peacemakers?
Yeah, there's that brilliant explicit teaching model that talks about I do, you do, we do, you do. And it's that head knowledge, isn't it, that you're talking about? So we try to deliver our content in a range of different ways so that we reach a range of different learners. So we'll deliver instructions through discussion, through written context, all of those kinds of contexts, and then we'll get them to do something with it, whether that's a classroom activity, whether that's a practical activity. That's hopefully transferring that knowledge out of their brain and into a practical context.
They're co-constructing, they're making, they're wrestling. That's how you're formed.
Yeah. And that example that I gave earlier where we're getting them to go and try and apply it in that practical context, which is very different from the classroom context. How do I include people? How do I make people feel included in my context might be the learning goal. Then you throw them into a European handball context and you've got that exclusion happening, pausing it and then getting them to go back to it to create a really whole, correct and Christian environment, which is still in line with the Australian curriculum. So good. But that review of the video, that problem solving generally in groups, and then that application of it again to restore that peace in that context, for me, that's so good.
We were just in the devotion this morning, I was talking about how to listen, imagine, create, communicate as a reflective action kind of framework. But you can see that in your lesson. You're listening to what's going on and why. You're videoing it and actually observing the way they're presently acting. Then you're imagining what should be going on.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that exclusion, I mean, that might be okay in European handball, but in Australian handball, we're more inclusive. Those Europeans, I don't know. But, and then we create, how do we change our way of engaging or practicing? And then what does it mean to communicate through this assessment piece a different way of being that's more in line with the gospel? Like that's a great way of doing it. So any tips for teachers who are kind of in this space that you think help make for really effective teaching and learning that is transformative? Yeah.
Try some things for sure. Some will totally fail. But there's some brilliant critical thinking models out there that can get, in any context, you can pause and you can get students to reflect and dive deeper through that tool into whatever curriculum piece you're doing. And what that will do is it will hopefully make it come alive and contextualize. Again, in HP, we get the opportunity to have that practical element as a vehicle for that. But yeah, try some things. Don't be scared to fail, for sure. Harvard Project Zero's got a whole bunch of really excellent tools out there. I've got a colleague who is a low-key maths teacher as well. So he does not like it when I put the critical thinking Project Zero elements into our units.
Why is that?
Because it'll be something like, think of a color that you think of when you see this scenario. He doesn't like the abstract.
So he just wants a math.
Just the numbers, please. Get me to the end. So drives him a bit crazy, but I think it's fun. Yeah, it's great.
Sorry, this is probably something I should do off camera, but I was chatting with Brendan before about Uber Barlow. Have you ever come across that?
No, I haven't.
All right, sorry, this is like a talkie point. I'm interviewing you.
No, it's fine. Go teach me something.
Yeah, why not? So I found out about this in 2010 with the Lausanne movement, which is kind of an international evangelistic movement. But I can't remember what year, maybe 2000 or earlier, it started in South Africa. And with the AIDS pandemic, they realized that the average age of the population had gone way down. There's all these kids who are orphans. And what they said is, how do we address particularly the fatherless crisis in South Africa? And they said, well, one thing all these kids are doing is playing football, playing soccer. And they said, what would it look like if we trained up a whole generation of coaches who don't try and replace the parents, but these kids have got no parents? How do we train them up in ways of coaching in football that help form these young people to become good young people who are well-formed? And so they started by experimenting of not just teach the lesson and be nice and then do a devotion at the end, but they said, well, actually the sub-skills that make up this sport have ethical import. So we're teaching a kid how to do a header, which takes a lot of courage. And so they did a whole virtue framework and then formation. So you would have a whole lesson on, games for understanding. You do the game and then you'd see an opportunity where someone tries to do a header. Maybe it goes well, maybe they flinch. Yeah. They talk about it. They then do some kind of formation on the virtues required to do a header and how that fits within a larger story of God made us to be people of courage, to stand up. Yeah. And the way the coach would do that, they'd be kneeling down while they're talking, which is getting rid of the power differentials. They'd return to the game for understanding, play it again, and then encourage them in the way they expressed courage through a header. So that's where it started. Where it is now is it's in, I can't remember how many countries, probably 20 countries, Latin America. They've put literally millions of kids, not just through football, but through about 15 different sports now, and they've made fully available on Max 7, which is kind of an international hub for youth things. They've put the full curriculum for multiple levels of the sport. So if you're teaching, say, volleyball, you can work your way up through about 3 or 4 different levels of the game with skills embedded and character formation of coaching all the way through. It's just a beautiful example of teaching where virtue and the sport come together in this beautiful union that forms people as image bearers. I just think anyway, so Ubabalo, Ubabalo. It's a very cool sport thing.
It's the thing that I love about that as well is it's got a leadership avenue, and you're rising up the next group of leaders, which in our context as well, I'm not sure what your experience has been, but when you want people or when you want those coaches for next year, even where do you get them from? In our context, we've often got employment restrictions where they need to be Christian. If we've got wonderful young people that are skilled in that sport, they're Christian, we want to encourage them to come back and feed back into that.
And they'll be mentoring younger kids.
That's exactly right.
It's really awesome.
So yeah, I love that part. It's a passion of mine, but it's challenging. There's so many demands on young people these days, but where you can encourage them back to give back, that's such a great community thing as well. You're serving your community, which I think is wonderful.
So let's do the third level. So we've seen and knew the curricular connections. We've chosen a way of engaging that forms people as wise peacemakers in the teaching and learning. Let's look at reshaping practice. So this is the kind of classroom layout, the habits, the practices. How do you shape them as young people to love God, to love others, to steward His world, to cultivate it? How do you shape the habits of this classroom?
I think probably one of the most impacting things over the last few years as I've been learning my role is actually mentoring early career teachers. It's something that I've always loved to do. I probably haven't done it as well in the past, but the thing they struggle with is, where do I put the expectations of my classroom? I'm trying to get established. I want people to like me. And I've fallen guilty of that in the past as well, as particularly a younger teacher. I want people to like me. I am highly relational, but at what cost? And I think...
if you just said best friends.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So identifying where you need those boundaries to be and making sure that they're well communicated and that they're adhered to, I think is critical, particularly for an early career teacher, particularly when you do have opportunity to connect with young people like PE teachers do in coaching roles. You're often going away on trips with these students, so you build a different relationship, a deeper relationship with them. They'll often have that familiarity, which is a great thing, but it can also be a bit of a detriment in a class context as well. Yeah, man.
What is it?
Well, I got
boxy.
It's totally boxy.
Of course it is. You just chuck a wine. It's not that imaginative, but it's nice.
Thank you. I got braces last week. So my year 12s at the moment are calling me brace-face Stace.
Are you appreciating that one? How's that going down for you?
Yeah, see, there's that boundary. No.
And I just say, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. No, but yeah, my biggest encouragement is just maintaining those consistent expectations. Again, out of a place of respect, but out of a place of, I have a responsibility to teach all of these students here. If something's going to prevent that from occurring, then something needs to change. And having that right to teach and the students having that right to learn, for me, is such a fundamental boundary. So I guess, again, that comes from that relationship, and being able to ask students or request that students fall in line with those.
I was talking about a conference down in Sydney at Pacific Hills. We're looking at deep formation, and we were talking about how does academic excellence relate to faith formation. And one of the things we're saying is at the center of this is actually love, but love is not just giving young people what they want. Just like love is not a parent giving their kids lollies every time they ask. Love is an unconditional will for the flourishing or the good of the other. And if your desire is for these young people to flourish, then obviously knowing that they're connected and friendly and relational, that's key. But if that is becoming a barrier to them learning because they don't respect and they don't follow and they don't help, that's not loving to lower the standards and just be blasé with your discipline. Actually, good discipline is an expression of love to help them grow up and own it, but not a harsh discipline that makes them resent you in the school. So that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So can you give us an example? And we've talked about those three levels, again, the curricular connections, the engagement, the reshaping of practice. I'd love to hear maybe a story for you of a lesson that you taught where you just it felt like it all just came together.
Yeah.
And wasn't that great for the kids? Wasn't that great for me? Maybe some principles that would help, say, a first year HPE teacher to get their bearings and do this well.
Yeah. My favorite thing, I love teaching senior PE. I love that there is still that really high level sport component of it, whereas P.12 Australian curriculum, it's moved away from that a lot over the last, with the version change. So I love getting stuck into one of those sports. And
which is your fave to teach?
Oh, to be honest, I'm going to resent saying this. Probably volleyball, to be honest.
Why are you resenting it? Because you're a basketball player?
Well, because when I moved to Queensland, I was previously teaching in New South Wales. We played normal sports down there. Like
you said volleyball is not a normal sport. You should regret
I couldn't believe that volleyball was everywhere in Queensland. So I had to learn it. But now that I've learned it, I'm not very good at it, but
it's a great team.
Just strategy around it, the rotational play, I find it so fun.
Yeah.
So I love getting into that, and being quite a difficult technical sport, you've got to go on a journey with the students, particularly when they are getting assessed on their performance.
It's also a bit of pain in it. I found, you get really slapped. It's like gymnastics. It's second only to gymnastics in terms of pain on your body playing the sport. Yeah.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
I obviously haven't played that hard, but no. But seeing the students grapple with those technique things and having to pick themselves up each lesson and be persistent and try to learn these difficult skills and then put them in a team context. For me, it's so hard. You see the growth, hey? You see the growth, but creating, I love it when you walk in, the kids are keen to set up. There's a vibe, there's a buzz going on, and everyone just gets drawn in it. Everyone is trying their hardest. Everyone is respectful of how each other's trying their hardest, their personal best. And you start to get some really great play. Then you put a camera up because you got to film and you got to provide evidence of why you've given this mark. And it's just so good.
And you see the integration though with the faith formation side.
For sure. Yeah, you see these kids that are pursuing excellence. Like you said before, I think for me in our context, pursuing excellence, it's kind of fun to do in our context. I could imagine pursuing excellence for me in math would be the pits. Like, how do you even pursue excellence there? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But seeing these students that are great kids, they're great people, they have a faith, yet they're going to try hard in everything that they do. That for me is the outworking of Christianity. doing the hard things as well. They're the ones that are packing down at the end of the day. They're the ones that are spending their extra time volunteering or helping out at training at lunchtime and everything like that. That for me is that pursuit of excellence, which is honoring God in all that they do and all the gifts that God's given them. It's the best. I love it.
And at the same time, it probably loops back into the reshaping practice. There's countless teachable moments in terms of even team selection.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so many moments that you chat with a lot of kids who weren't as sporty, and sports stuff for them. I know that HP is much more than sport. I keep pressing on sport, but sometimes that's their most painful memories of when they were conscious that they, struggled with their weight, or that they weren't very coordinated, or they were embarrassed or pushed to the margins. But building a culture which champions everyone and helps everyone become their best through competing it is glorifying to God in the way that we compete, competing with grace, competing with truth. That's beautiful.
You guys will know, you'll know, like the year 8 girls, like it is nearly impossible with a negative culture to get them to engage.
For me, it was year 9. I thought year 8s were semi-okay, but year 9,
Year 8s are like B-grade gangsters. They're starting to realize that schools, like, you can actually like push boundaries and stuff. So you get to the end.
There's no major consequences if it doesn't go well.
That's it. Yeah. Year 9, they've always got their period or whatever, but that's okay. And then year 10, they kind of come around to normal humans again. But getting those girls involved, that's like my number one goal. And that's been such a joy for me to try and unlock that over my career.
Awesome.
But they've got to feel comfortable. They've got to feel safe. They've got to feel like they can achieve something positive in that context. So just trying to manipulate that, not giving up. Do not let them go. Do not let them go to sick bay. Do not let them go for a long walk to get a drink. There's always something they can do in that context. You just got to be creative to find it.
I love that. Do not let them go to sick bay.
Do not let them go.
I'm remembering that. I'll tell you some stories afterwards that I shouldn't share on camera in terms of where I didn't let kids go to sick bay. And I mean, it's generally good advice.
Probably backfired, didn't it?
not universal, but as we wrap up, I would love to pray for you, and also for, as you're watching, whenever you watch this, to pray for blessing on Stacey and her teaching, and on Bundaberg Christian College as well. But I'd also love, if you're comfortable, just to pray for teachers, but particularly thinking of HPE teachers. Is that cool?
Yeah, I'd love to.
How can I pray for you? What's one or a couple of things that I could pray for?
I've been burdened recently, not so much in my subject area, but we need teachers in our schools. I think all schools need teachers, but in particular, we need really great Christian teachers that are choosing our occupation because it's a calling from God. So being a regional town as well, it's quite difficult to get teachers out of the southeast corner in Queensland. So yeah, we always get a bit nervous around recruiting time. How are we going to fill these spots? And God always provides. He's always faithful, but it's nerve-wracking. So just to pray for the next generation of teachers, for me, that would be an awesome thing to do.
That'd be great. Let's all pray together. Lord, I thank you for Stacey. I thank you that she was the perfect person to interview for today. And I thank you for the way that you have formed her as a fantastic teacher across many years now. And for the way that she's brought that enthusiasm here to BCC. I thank you for her heart for excellent teaching and learning. Would you bless her as a director in that space? Would you guide her with her students? Would you give her resilience as they call her names about her braces? We won't call down curses from heaven against those students. But Lord, we do pray that she would flourish, and in her flourishing, that these young people, even year 8 girls in sport, would flourish as well, and their families would flourish. Lord, you hear her prayer for excellent teachers, excellent Christian teachers, people who are well-formed to follow you and well-formed to be educators who make a difference. And would you strengthen her arm as she encourages others, seeks to recruit the right people, and builds a culture of relationships and of teamwork in this context, even in volleyball, that is a real light on the hill for Bundaberg, for this region and other places as they travel for the sporting carnival. So would you bless her this day? I pray in your name, Jesus. Amen.
God, I thank you so much for health and physical education. I thank you that you've given us this subject area that is interested and focused on holistically forming our young people. And I just thank you so much that we've even got an avenue to talk about you in that context. Even if we're in a government school, we still acknowledge the spiritual development of the child. And I just pray that as HPE teachers are encouraged, hopefully by what we've talked about today, that they're bold, that they set high standards, that they take a leap of faith with the integration of practical elements and the theoretical elements, that they really have or try out the opportunity to integrate those opportunities through a vehicle of sport. Lord, I thank you so much for our subject area, and I just pray that you continue to give us opportunity to share your light with our young people. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks so much for your time, Stacey.
Thank you.
You did a great job. You didn't need any notes or anything.
No, how good.
Absolutely rocked it. And thanks for joining us. And until I see you next time, shalom.
See ya.